in case it's not recording. Okay, so back. I don't want to miss anything. So Martha, as I was saying there, a really interesting drawing, and I think this is created digitally. She uses digital tools, so good to see her experimenting. And when you come to this sort of journey of doing these projects, because some of you are quite new to this, some of you are not, is really to think about putting new work forward and pushing yourself each time rather than, repeating and sort of going along the same journey. And I know it's hard to keep trying, but I think it's interesting to keep pushing yourself. So this is good. Martha took a bit of a leap of faith and she's trying something new. And I think it's coming off. So well done, Martha. And it'd be interesting to see how this work pans out. Selma, another one, and I think I mentioned last time in the previous talks with Selma. Selma's obviously testing with painting, and if you follow Selma online, I think she's called Cody X. You'll see that she's experimenting with virtual reality. She's playing with augmented reality with her drawings. So if you can have a look, it's worth having a look at what Selma's doing in her practice. And I think I've mentioned this last time, but it's really nice to see people playing between drawing, digital technology, experimentation. It's really worth challenging yourself. So each time we go through this is a sort of a journey and you experiment, you get some feedback, you learn, and we're going to try and invite some more guests in. Massimo at the moment he's busy with Paris Fashion Week. So it's me at the moment. Everyone's busy and we've just had a busy week as well. So there was Selma's piece. Um, Valia. Really nice to see what Valia's doing. Valia again sent in a different array of work, and it was really nice to see this portrait, silhouette, and she's starting to look at this very sort of drawn back work, really being the textures are getting more grainy and more inspiring, and the work's becoming quite seductive, which is really nice. And I think there's a real journey in this work now. So it's nice to see Valia kind of pushing her work and pushing her practice. So Valia, well done. When we kind of look through this work, and I know you entered another piece, but I'm trying to select uh, iconic works that each of us are doing to kind of bring forward. So, really a really nice piece. And I think in time it would be interesting to see. So also we tried to think about commissioned work. What commissioned work I get, what work's coming through the industry at the moment. Obviously, live events is really big, but typography's big, beauty's big. These are areas, and we've just seen Harvey Nichols just doing a big campaign with fashion illustration. So there's a real desire for fashion illustration in the market. So, showing this work, pushing it, playing with it, and experimenting is really good. So, Valia, a really nice piece. And, you know, uh, from the exhibition we just had, you had some really nice interest in your work from people wanting to buy it, which is great news. So it was great to show your work at London Fashion Week, and we had I'd say there was roughly between 2 to 5 thousand people coming through the doors, checking out the work. So a huge volume of people really loving the work and seeing the work. So it was a real success showing your work. So well done. And then Nina, I'm not too sure if Nina's on here, but Nina, again, you can see you sort of being more graphic and pushing the work and playing with the work and using this sort of playful colors. I think down here where you've got these blueberries, um, I think they're blueberries or blackberries. I think they're blueberries. These blueberries, um, they could you could do more of that and look and be more hyper realistic. So I'm interested to see how more realistic you can get. But I like this sort of combination of drawn and the diamond in there. So this sort of combination of them both. I think there's a real play. But like I've said to some people, think about animation and how you can animate some of this work and pushing the boundaries of it. And also like with Nilou's work, using a different sort of tone of green for Tiffany's, a more sort of vintage color. And I like that you've kept Nilu with the animal, and I think there's a real you've got to keep this going, and you're refining the drawing as well, which is quite nice. So we're seeing sort of refinement happening in the drawing. So and there's like little narratives. So I do feel that these illustrations probably could work really nice as in a book format. So I'd be considering maybe thinking about, I've seen lots of books of uh, sh the black dress in Paris for Chanel. And you could think about these sort of creatures or people who maybe go to Paris Fashion Week or so it's not only brand based, it could be brand based or thinking about stories. So I think that this Tiffany this Tiffany idea and you using the I'm assuming it's a swan, this swan being part of a narrative is really good. And I know from other illustrators they've been saying to us that art directors are really looking for work that has a background, has a sort of environment. So, and then we had Hamida, and I quite liked these three together. And I can see Tamayo's on here. You can jump in them, Tamayo. But Hamida looking at Christmas. I think Hamida's obviously still in love with Christmas because there's snow, and thinking of Tiffany as the present. So this is a little piece and I think with Hamada, you really have consistently pushed the idea of your editorial work and advertorial. I think there's a real advertisement concept here. And for me, if it would be really nice for you to do a series of all different boxes that maybe Tiffany would have and I love that skyline. Maybe there could be different skylines. You could think of different locations because that's the sort of thing Tiffany would do. And this would work really nicely as a visual merchandising point of sale, something in store, and also as a gift card. Think about all these avenues. If you didn't listen to my talks that I did during London Fashion Week, I did one with an agency, and she really spoke about you trying to convey different ideas to help inform art directors of the potential of your work. So really thinking about that. And Tamayo's on here. So Tamayo, this was the piece that I
Right.
picked, and I looked at a variety of pieces, but this one really kind of stood out to me as something a little bit different than before, and something that I thought uh, really is more iconic and more reduced, and it feels like a little bit of you, but kind of moving forwards. So I don't know, Tamayo, did you have it? What were your thoughts on this? Like, if you want to share anything, because it feels a little bit different.
Hi. Yeah, actually, I was thinking of, of the branding itself, no, because it's really related to the movie, Breakfast at Tiffany. That's why I chose to do this one. Very simple.
Yeah,
Uh,
and what was this created on a Photoshop or was it all by hand?
no, Photoshop.
Photoshop. So you're
Yeah.
managing to almost capture a line that feels quite pencil-like, and then you've got this sort of brush mark, and it is sort of. I was looking at the work for Bali today. Someone was showing me some posters of Bali, and if you look at the old Bali posters, these are quite reminiscent of Bali, and I think here you've really captured like this simplicity of white, black, and this sort of teal color for Tiffany. You've really sort of captured the mood and the essence of it. Um, and rather than the other one, because the other one echoed the one before with the silhouette and the watercolor, but here it's sort of a combination of really thick graphic marks with a really fine drawing line. And we did a project with Chappelle, if you remember that. And some of the
Oh,
feedback
yeah.
they gave was the reason why we really liked certain drawings was because the combination of heavy graphic marks with really fine lines. And this really reminded me of it. And in thinking of the idea of being in Paris, this sort of captures the essence and the romance of it. And it says enough. So I quite like this idea of almost opposite to what you did before, where we did this sort of silhouette with a black tin with lots of textures. This is the opposite. It's just a combination of heavy line, thin line, and this sort of wispy white line. And I thought when I looked at this, this really, out of all of the work, was a little bit different and a little bit more playful and very much to the point. And I think in this moment you've sort of captured something and I'm trying to pick out these sort of spaces where you're pushing yourself a little bit in a different direction again. So it's nice to see that, and I think rather than me repeat myself, I'm trying to think how can we be progressive. So I really liked what you did here, and I think if you could think about more, and that sort of person looking into the location is good. So I really like this one to me, and I think it felt a little bit different, and I think you've sort of challenges maybe a little bit around the neckline. If you just imagine there was sort of what if this was a white bits of
Oh,
necklace
I
or
see.
something, maybe it adds a little bit more, or you could have a little bit of a highlight here. But I could be wrong. It would be just worth because you've got the white kind of steam coming out of the drink. But I feel that maybe there's some like because if we think of Tiffany, it's quite jewel-like. I don't want glossy, like shiny lines. I just maybe a few little speckles of white might highlight this area well. As a test, and if it doesn't work, we delete it.
Yeah, because actually I was focusing on the cup because the
The drink.
I did all yeah, it was mainly the cup. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I could do it, just invert, just put some on the
It kind of
necklace.
can you see that it kind of you can really your eye really so the nice thing if you think of composition your eye is going into the perspective of the buildings which draws you down to the cup and then you look at the cup and then you go around the arm and into the head so compositionally this is really a powerful piece because you're kind of brought into the space via the perspective part, and then you come to the cup, which then brings you up the arm and back into the image. So compositionally, this is a really nice composition. And I don't know if you thought about that.
No, not really. I was just playing with
You're just
the
yeah, so you're going with what feels nice, but here I'm thinking about composition. So trying to think about and this powerful foreground image is really nice. So Tamayo, a really good piece. And again, I think thinking about these heavy graphic marks and fragile lines, you're kind of getting along that. You're almost moving into this space quite nicely. So well done with this. A really good
Okay.
piece.
Oh, thank you.
I like that. Rosita, yeah, again, quite a cheeky. Uh, this is sort of like a lovable piece, and if we're thinking about what the feedback that we've been giving each other is thinking about, okay, so can the butterflies move? Can you animate this anyway and think about it in a different way? And also could we think about when we think about Massimo's feedback and feedback that we've had before, could we do a differentiation of line? So here's quite nice. You've got a really soft line around the shoulder, and then it gets thicker on the arm. This giving weight to the arm, and then a little bit thicker here, which brings the arm forward a bit more. But you have to watch out where you've made this thick and you've made this quite heavy as well. You're kind of we're moving forwards and backwards. So just be aware of what you make heavy because this is heavy and then this arm should be back. So if you think about the body shape, it kind of it moves around because of the weight of the line. So just be prepared with the weight of the line. Yeah. So Just think about these lines that you're kind of doing. It's quite important. And also like on the face is like there's some sort of like cheeky little face, and I think that's quite nice. Maybe we could think about more bringing in some brushstrokes around the back of this figure and a bit of mixed media. A bit of mixed media would be quite nice. So just think about mixed media as well on this piece. Belen, I think I saw Belen on here. I'm not sure if she's still here. Let's have a look. She came on and went. Oh no, she might be here. No.
Hello.
Ah, you're here, Belen. Well done. So,
Uh,
so Belen, I know
Hello.
you missed the early part of the talk. What I was saying was I'm trying to focus on individual pieces that really jumped out at me and captured my eye because you had a few alternatives to this drawing, and this one I really liked. I thought, the other one I liked as well. I think they both have a similar tone. But this is a great piece. What size is this in scale?
Is 21 for is like a folio.
A4.
Eh,
So it's A4. Okay.
un
And
folio
yes,
simple.
okay. A4 size. And you did it with, oh, she's disappeared. With Indian ink and I'm guessing some white paint and watercolors.
Is uh, 24 for 32.
Ah, okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so nice, and I like this sort of old school painting technique in the background. It has it reminds me of Sol Steinberg, a very well-known well-known illustrator. This sort of mark making, and I really love this mark making that's happening down here with these lovely. The really nice part of this is very different from what you've been shown before, and I like the black and whiteness of it. I like
Mhm.
black
Okay.
and white, no
Okay.
color, and the mix of thin lines, brush marks, white areas, uh, and it's very almost quite immediate and spontaneous. So it feels like direct. You did it, and you've gone for it. And I think a lot of people, when we think about art and image making and drawing, is sometimes when we overdraw or overthink, it feels flat. Where yours feels fast, almost like Jackson Pollock-esque, and it's very quick, immediate, and has a good power to it. So I really like this piece, and I love the background's nice and the silhouette is nice and the nice brushstrokes down the neck really work well, and that sort of cross hatching for the tights on the leg are really good. So as I always say to you, these would be really nice big.
Okay.
Yeah. So it
Yeah.
would be nice for you to go big and test with a big brushstroke, or even printing bigger and maybe cutting out and collaging. And I think it would be nice to see you, even if you put on Slack or something, here's some experiments that I have been doing with scale, with different brushstrokes, just to
Mhm.
see um, what happens. Repeat this process many times in this black and white approach to drawing. I feel there's a really nice look and feel here, looking at classical images,
Mhm.
iconic iconoclast drawings,
Okay.
and really think about how could you find contemporary photography that you could reference that is iconic that you could draw from as well. So you have iconic pictures of the past and you have iconic pictures of the contemporary. And I and
Okay.
I saw the exhibition, the show by Roxanda, and she had very big playful shapes. You should look at the fashion show of Roxanda. Really
Roxanda, I don't.
have a look. Really nice
Okay.
big shapes and forms. And I think she will interest you because she looks at big flat shapes and it's very graphic. Yeah. So
Okay.
really graphic marks, but really nice, Belen. Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good. Delita, I think I saw Delita on here as well. Let me see. Yes.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hello, Delita.
Hello.
Hello. So I kind of went through all the images that you sent in, and I thought, okay, so we're thinking about breakfast at Tiffany's, we're thinking about drawing, and thinking about what images to sort of select, and then I kind of come back to this one because they have a similar vibe, the images that you put
Yeah,
in. So I'm trying to
yeah,
think what ones could kind of work for me, and I thought, yes, this is sort of what we would see as a postcard, something that you would give to clients. Also, this would be great for live event illustration. So
yeah.
we know there's a really big market for live events. So for you, I'd be thinking, okay, how could I draw maybe little iconic things related to brands? So
Yeah.
if you were going to be commissioned for live events, people go, this person is really good at drawing little objects. And then they go, okay, she draws croissants, she draws cups. We're seeing lots of people like dogs, plants,
Mhm.
teddy bears. There's lots of that area, and people
Mhm.
need to see that you can tackle these areas. Because we recently had someone inquiring for an illustrator, and they were like, "Oh, can they do this approach?" And if they look on your Instagram and they can't see it,
Yeah.
they won't commission you. So you need to kind of think about if you were to be illustrating for a company, maybe you're thinking about, okay, if I was doing Moschino,
Mhm.
what are the objects related to Moschino, the teddy bear, the love heart? If I was doing Prada, what would I be drawing? What would I be drawing if I did Comme des Garçons? What are the little objects that represent the brands? And then from a live events point of view, you would really get lots of live event opportunities. And that's
Okay.
sort of the feedback that we've had. And because you have that very sort of classic style of drawing, which is more for live events, called sort of graphic, fast,
Mhm.
this is perfect for this. And the nice thing is they want people to be able to see, they can draw, they understand composition, they understand form. And I also think this, it looks sort of semi pencil graffiti like in the background. Maybe you could think about that. And what you could think about is, depending if you want to be into live events, is think about how you do names, how you would write someone's name, how you would do typography in a typeface. And I don't mind it. Look, to me, it looks quite graffiti like the typeface.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
just think about
exactly.
but what was your thoughts on this? What was your inspiration?
Yeah. Actually, I thought about the things you told me about the last project I did for Cartier. That was maybe that was like pleasant to the eye, but was I would say stiff. Was to like a photography or something with a little bit too graphic and clean and wasn't really expressive.
Yeah,
So I try to do something more rough, less clean, like more like I usually draw um, from life. Actually, I would be really interested in like being as an event artist, like artist, because I like to sketch. I really like to sketch. I'm quite fast,
yeah.
especially with human figures. So I try to do something more quicker, not less than a portrait or something that takes more time and has to be clean. So
Yeah,
like that
yeah.
was my
And
and thing.
and
Yeah,
one quick question. Are you based in Italy?
yeah.
Whereabouts in Italy?
Sorry.
Whereabouts in Italy? Where?
Like I'm live near, like between Florence and Pisa. I
Okay.
study in Florence.
Right, okay. So if you think about your target audience And a lot of people are feeding back to me in Italy. Live events has become really big. I'm
Mhm.
thinking of, you know, how do you get work? Where is all the commissioning coming from? We're really realizing because of AI, editorial is becoming very low profit, almost
Mhm.
invisible, where live
Okay.
events has become quite profitable and a big market. And I would be thinking in Italy, think of objects, food, things, and maybe what is your USP for getting work? How do
Okay.
people go, that's Delita. She's the one who does the little cards that have a
Mhm.
little pin and you stick them with the food and your job is to give
Mhm.
ideas to people to use you. So
Okay.
we recently, if you've been looking at our talks, there's one lady we've been talking to quite a lot called Rita, and she does loads and loads of private events for Dior, Mont Blanc. She did Diesel, and she does these lovely little drawings, and you've got a little bit of her style as well. But you could be
Mhm.
thinking about how could someone like her use my work? How could she go,
Okay.
could you do me a small drawing that we could print out and we could like stick in a cake, or we could
Okay.
put as a underneath a cake to lift up something?
Mhm. Mhm.
You could give people ideas of how to give you work. That is your job. Your job is to inspire people to commission you. People won't just come to you with ideas. You have to give them ideas. So when I go to your website or your
Mhm.
Instagram, I
Mhm.
want to see, could you draw a croissant, cut it out, and stick it in a cake? So it looks like this sort of illustration cake thing.
Okay.
Yeah, and or how can I collect what you do? Is it stickers? What are they? And then on a coffee cup, we've seen loads of people drawing on coffee cups. Could you draw on ribbon? Could you illustrate ribbon? What can you do? So my advice for you going forwards is
Mhm.
keep doing more of this as illustrations go from a
Mhm.
drawing point, but also from a work point of view. How could you think about, like I can see Hamida on here as well, who's been drawing on doing etching onto perfume bottles and
Mhm.
thinking about,
Okay.
there's been lots of that work. So
Mhm.
we all have to think about what is the market, how can I get more work, and how could I get work in the industry that I love? And that is your job. So with regards to the images, I think they're lovely. I think you could just print them out, get them cut out, and then
Okay.
think about ideas. What would I do if I went to an event and I wanted your stuff? Because imagine that croissant, even if that croissant was really big on a plate, and then you had
Mhm.
it as a board to hold food on for events. You could be someone who designs these sort of flat shapes on MDF, you paint them, and then they use them as boards. That's
Mhm.
an idea. No one's doing that, but you're
Okay.
giving ideas to people. That's your job. All
Yeah.
right?
Okay. Thank you for the suggestions. I
Good.
will. But
And
thank you
post
very
them
much.
and share them. Share
Yeah.
them so
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
people can see what you're doing. On Slack, put some information up there. Say, these are some ideas. What does anyone think? And then get other members and people like that to give ideas. Put it up on Instagram. Hi,
Mhm.
everybody. I've been experimenting with this. What do you think? Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah. I was working some videos to put on my social accounts these days, like videos where I was sketching or was cutting things. I was working on this in these days that I'm less busy because next month will be quite hard with the school.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm trying right now to work as more as possible.
Good, good.
Right.
But everybody is like you. They have
Yeah.
5 jobs, they work hard, they teach, they do this. So we're all in the same boat together. It's just fitting it in and creating more opportunities. So you don't need to do 10 jobs. You could do three
Yeah.
jobs, 2 jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay,
Okay.
good. Excellent. Next, so Lucy, I don't think she's on here. A really nice graphic piece. You know, the gaze is really interesting. We've got some really interesting lines. We just have to watch out that when you use any sorts of shapes or forms that are sort of vectorized, we have to watch out that there's a rise of AI, and there's also in Illustrator, there's lots of modes for coloring in and tracing. So we have to be aware of what is happening in computer technology today, so it doesn't sort of infringe with what you're doing, because the composition is really nice and the colors are really great, and I think it's a really like powerful piece. There's a really interesting illustrator called Mariscal, a Spanish illustrator who, if you go and look at his work, he does very similar to what you're doing, and he does these sort of painterly mark making using Illustrator or vector arts. And have a look at his work. He's starting to get more brushstrokes in there and marks, like the lines that are happening in the hair are starting to get really interesting. So, and these eyes are quite powerful pieces. So just be aware and try and vary the thickness of your lines. Where the lines become too similar in weight, then they kind of don't they look too computerized. So our job is to make it feel, even though it's done by a computer or has that mark making, is how can you change that brushstroke so it feels more painterly. Yeah, and that's why I put Katie's here. I don't know if Katie's here, but on Katie's one is really thinking about how she varies the line, and I like this sort of speedy mark making, and Katie's sort of it was great to see her come to Fashion Scout and kind of drawing, but this sort of really dynamic, fast, and I almost like this sort of charcoal mark making, even though it's in white. It's like an old chalk rubber drawing on, and I think that even that idea of how could you maybe experiment with this. I know you're using the iPad potentially, but could you go on to charcoal and do rubbing out or mark making with charcoal, so it can inform what you do. So when we do our work, we're trying to inform ourselves via drawing. It isn't just you just draw and you use the different tools in Procreate or Photoshop. You're actually going, okay, so maybe I need to experiment with a brush or an experiment, and then I go, I learned from that. Maybe I'll photocopy it or I'll scan it in, and then I'll bring that into my work. So you're not just always reliant on digital tech. But the nice thing here is I love that texture, and I think there's some really nice textures, and this sort of silhouette is getting interesting. It would be interesting to see how could you make this even more graphic, like what we were doing with uh, uh, I guess when we were looking at the early works that has come from Tomeo, and we looked at even earlier for Valier as well, looking at the silhouette. Could this be a bigger graphic silhouette with white marks, which is usually known as burnishing? So you take out white areas with a rubber. It would be good to see. I'd love to see you color this all in with charcoal and then rub out the areas that you want, and then photograph that and then make it a blue tint in Photoshop. So just think about other techniques that could inform what you do, rather than we just always jump on the digital tools. So think quite experimental. Jana, I can see Jana, you're here. I don't know if she can turn if
Yes,
yeah.
I'm here. I'm sorry. Sorry, I just couldn't find the microphone again. Hi. Wait, I will
Hello,
put
Jana.
it.
So you sent two quite similar, and I picked this one. I thought
Yes,
this was
yes. I
quite
couldn't make up my mind.
uh, that that's fine, and I quite like this sort of almost naive line in the background, capturing the sort of the backdrop, and then you've got
Hmm.
these little floating objects. This would make a really interesting in-store piece. So if
Hmm.
I went
Hmm.
into a shop, uh, this sort of this female, almost like look at David Hockney's uh, set designs. So if you go
Hmm.
online and look up David Hockney, look at the set designs he created and how he uh, did use drawing and then dismantled it to create depth. Because this could
Yeah.
even, you could think of draw it on cardboard, cut it out, then draw
Hmm.
you've got the two packages here. How could they work? And then you could photograph it, and it has depth of field, which is what Walt Disney used to do. So he would
Mm-hmm.
create depth of field, like with rotoscoping, all these different techniques. You could bring back some.
Actually,
Yeah.
sorry, the head and the upper body till the shoulders and the upper body and the head, it's a aquarelle, so it's a watercolor, and I photographed it and cut it out and put it into the Procreate.
Ah,
So
okay. Because it would, but I would like to see you, even if you print this out onto
mm-hmm,
some nice card. You could print it
mm-hmm,
out at a shop or something, cut her out, and then
mm-hmm,
you could kind of, or even if it was like the idea of a card, so you could cut around her and she comes forward and then the back folds down. So it could almost work like a little gift that's in a
I
Tiffany
see.
store. Could look really
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. Thank you. Mm-hmm,
So it's just thinking of, as I mentioned before, your job is to give ideas to people. So we, at the moment, creating a really nice illustration almost works as a limited edition print. But from a commercial point of view, how could you inspire people to go, ah, this would look really nice, as a card, and it stands up on
mm-hmm,
its own, or this really works nice as something that could be a set design for a store, or for a photograph with a model standing next to your painting. How
mm-hmm,
do you imagine that? And that's your job, is to use multiple skills to actually help people. You could have them little things hanging with string, and I'd love to see this 3D. Go
yeah.
home. It doesn't have to be big. It could be quite small, but it's how you photograph it. And I think
Mm-hmm,
it would be really cool to see that. And I'd love to see how you would work this out. And then it becomes a set. Imagine if I said to you, this would be set design. How interesting it would be to see it life size.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Mm-hmm.
It would be super cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, good. Anyway, lovely. Thank you, Jana. A lovely piece. Well
Thank you
done.
very much.
Well
Thank you.
done. And Amelie, is Amelie on here?
Yeah, hello.
Hello, Amelie. So explain. I'm assuming this is mixed media.
Oh, actually, it's all watercolor, and
Wow.
the text and the frame, it was added digitally.
So you've painted the whole pictures with watercolor, and then
Yeah,
you've just added the other elements. Wow, wow.
yeah. Oh, actually, the watercolor in the background behind her, it's digital watercolor.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay. So you've got a mixed media of
yeah.
watercolor, digital background watercolor, and then sort of some watercolor down here. And the necklace, is that hand painted as well?
Yes.
Wow. So there's
Yes,
some
I,
really,
I did the piece 35 centimeters by 51, just to have the room to make a big necklace and then have the room to draw the details.
wow, really nice. And do you enjoy painting detailed jewelry?
Yes, I do. It's rather new for me to draw like realistic jewelry and jewelry in general, and I kind of like it. Yes.
So what I would love to see from you is, if you look at some of the Tiffany ads, there's some really nice Tiffany ads where they've got hands. They did a big campaign just with hands, and they were in really weird shapes. I would love to see how you would tackle drawing some hands and showing the jewelry that went around, like a bracelet or rings, how they would work with a mix of this sort of watercolor drawing that feels quite realistic, and then the colored version of the jewelry coming around the wrist. Because there's a real desirable market for jewelry and beauty within fashion illustration, but nobody does it.
Oh, okay.
It just, if you look around, it's very rare. And we have Fashion Strokes, who's one of our members, and she gets lots of work for Bulgari, lots of like luxury brands, because she's one of the only people who really draws hands and bits of ears as close-ups to represent jewelry and product. And she gets lots of live event work for that as well. So my advice to you, Amelie, is think about how you could draw hands and objects where you really see beauty and accessory brands, like accessories, I'm talking like jewelry brands, or even someone holding a lipstick would be really nice. A hand holding a lipstick and a close-up of just lips. You know, we were doing lots of stuff at Fashion Week, but everybody seems to draw the whole figure all the time. But there's a lot of stuff that happens backstage, you know, capturing the essence of people putting on makeup and lipstick. And there was a really nice drawing someone did just of an eye and someone putting the brush on their eye. It was enough. We didn't need to see the whole scene. So it would be really cool for you to show. I'd love to see you do more of these Tiffany ones, but with hands and different jewelry. And also, like you've drawn this really ornate object. Think about brands because you obviously are very good at drawing ornate shapes. Think of brands like Bulgari, you know, these high-end luxury, De Beers. What brands would you attract by drawing high-end jewelry and even watches? You know, it'd be great to see you draw watches as well. You know, Rolex and all of these sort of high-end luxury, or what I call them bling watches. It would be good for you to draw them, and there's a real market for people wanting accessories being illustrated. So a really nice piece. I love the color. I love the style of which you've drawn it. I think you've done really well here. Just be aware that her shoulders have become really wide, so she's starting to look like she's a bit of a snowman.
Oh,
Can you think she looks like a big snowman? So just bring in where her shoulders, because we want her to have small shoulders, not
okay.
really big. Yeah?
Yeah, okay.
Good. Excellent, Amelie. And I think this was the first time you've kind of come on here. So well done overall. I thought it was great. And I can see Belen still on it. Belen, I haven't posted your animation on here. You can share it on the group and share I can share it as well. I'll share the tag, but I did a screenshot of this scene because this was my favorite bit. Yes, so this was
Yes.
my favorite part, and I'll post something online and share the animation similar to Mayo. I'm going to share some of the animations, but I loved this image. I thought this was a great image. Some of the animation didn't work, but I think this style and technique is really nice.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So the technique is
It's
good.
Procreate.
It's
This,
Procreate, yes.
yes.
I can see that, but I think the technique that you've used is really good, and
Mhm.
the still is really nice, but some of the animation doesn't flow as good as the stills. So I really love the still. So sometimes, and I love the composition of this panorama is really nice.
Okay.
Yeah. Good.
Okay.
Belen, well done. Thank you. Thank you. And
Thank
then
you.
I posted this because I wanted everybody to kind of see it because we spoke about it, and I don't know if anyone saw this. So I don't know if anyone had saw who anyone's been seeing these videos Martha's been posting, but she's integrating her illustrations. So she draws one illustration and then she's allowing AI to rebuild the rest of the artwork. Does anyone have any thoughts on this, good or bad, or are we all quiet?
It's kind of interesting that she can make the illustration move while keeping all the features, and it doesn't. She since it's AI, it reconstructs. It's kind of like saving time for you, and she
Yes.
doesn't have to make multiple. Like the animators make multiple.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. because AI, everybody, I'm getting sent lots of documents and forms say no to AI. But for me personally, I thought when I saw this from Martha, I thought, well, this is a great example of someone who has made an illustration and then said, okay, animate this and do something interesting. And what is the outcome? And to me, this is like a modern contemporary animation. It almost looks like a little beauty video. It works. And I think it's a great use of AI. So, we have this big discussion about AI. Our job is to think about how we can integrate it with what we do, because it's not going to go away. And the government has voted in the UK that they're allowed to use imagery offline. There's going to be a few blocks. So I've noticed a few blocks coming up, but it's going to definitely be happening. So we have to think about how we embrace AI, or AI, a robot can't work at a live event. So unless they're doing it on screen. So as I said, live events going to be a big space. So, a great point is it's kept the essence of her illustration and kept the drawing going. So just be aware. I think we could be quite mindful of what's happening in the industry today. But I wanted to show this little animation because I thought, Martha, you've got something interesting going on here, and I'll be interested to see if some work comes out of this and where it's going to go. So anyway, I think that was my final piece to show. So I we've had Fashion Week in the UK, and I was going to try and maybe we've got a Paco Rabanne project coming up as well. So we're going to have a busy month or so coming up. But some great pieces. Please sort of share more, think more about what you're doing, repeat your process more. But overall, some great work coming on, and I'm going to try and hopefully Massimo will be back. I've lost my partner in crime on these feedback sessions, and we're asking some magazines to join us as well to give you feedback. So overall, everybody, and I know it's been a rushed month this month, so it's been quite difficult. And you've seen we had the exhibition, so the exhibition went really well. There was lots of people who attended, so it was great news for us, and to get the feedback. And we've got lots of stuff happening, and we're planning for September as well. So lots of things coming up. We hopefully would like to have a show in Paris as well again. So fingers crossed. But thank you, everybody. And hopefully you have a good evening. And thanks for coming along. And Hamida, I saw you, and we just missed you. We mentioned yours earlier. So you can watch it back later on. I'll post it on YouTube this evening. So, but thanks everybody, and I'll speak to you soon. And well done. Overall, very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.